So in this particular sessions and the upcoming sessions, what exactly we would like to talk actually. So just a minute. Yes. Okay. I think it is good. So we'll talk about SQL, right? Okay. What exactly the SQL? What exactly the SQL? SQL means it's a structured query language, right? Yes or no? It's a structured query
Yes,
language,
yes.
right?
SQL means yeah, structured query
Yeah.
language.
So what is the need? Why we need to learn SQL? So you're already aware of it database and so how we can creating the data modeling and everything. So why we need to learn SQL? Is it any necessity of learning of SQL?
Database management system.
Yeah. For example, if you have any relational database management, or if you have any kind of relational databases like MySQL or a SQL Server and like MS SQL, okay. So if you have any kind of, we have various relational databases. We have it, right? Can you give me some kind of example for relational databases? So you might have various relational databases which are give me some examples. It could be like an Oracle, and it could be MS Access, okay, and it could be like a SQL Server, okay. Like we have various relational databases, right? Okay. So this relational databases on this particular relational databases, okay. If you want to store, any databases, or if you want to store, and manipulating, storing, and manipulating, and and retrieving the data, for example, if you want to access the data from the databases, or if you want to store and manipulating the data in this specific relational databases, we required a language. We required at least one computer language, right? That specific language we're calling it, say, SQL. Clear? I hope you clear, right? SQL means it's
Yes.
a computer language. Mainly it could help you for storing, manipulating, and retrieving the data from the relational databases. Okay, clear. So
Yeah, it's SQL is a language to communicate or
yes,
operate
yes,
or to manage the database.
yes, to manage or to store and retrieve, whatever. If you want to do any kind of operations on relational databases, we require a language. The name of the language is, it's a SQL. Clear? Clear or not? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's clear.
yeah. So you already know that, database, right? What exactly the database?
Database is nothing but it is a physical space to store the data,
Okay.
physical space to store the physical space to store and to
Yeah. Let me consider. I'm taking my
manage.
hard disk. Yeah, I'm taking my hard disk. Okay. So even in a hard disk also you can store the data, right? Yes or no? If you have any hard disk or pen drive, whatever it is, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
you can store
Yeah,
the
we
data,
can.
right? So can we call
Yeah.
those hard disks and those things, can we call it the databases?
No,
No. Why? Why we cannot call this hard disk, pen drive, or else any other storage devices? Why we are not calling it the databases? Okay. So
I think data is
data,
tabulated and easily
yeah,
retrievable.
yes, that means it could be like, some kind of structural format, right? Okay. So there, in case of databases, we can store the data in organized format or structured format. Okay. So this data is typically stored in an electronic in a computer system. And this databases, it could be managed by the which software? database management systems, right?
System.
Okay, so here we have a database management systems are there. With help of the database management system, we can able to manage or we can able to control and on this databases, and so that we can store the data in a structural format, or also we can easily organize the data in a structural format. So what we can do actually, we can easily access the data as well as we can easily store the data in a databases with help of the database management system. But in case of hard disk, if you're storing the data and which is not in a structural format, it could be like in an unstructured format. Is it possible to store the data as well? And you can store. It is possible to store the data, but when the time of retrieving, it's very tough, right? Okay, when you
Yes,
try to
yes.
retrieve the data from the databases, it could be little tough, right? Okay,
Yes, yes.
clear,
Yeah,
right?
but see,
Yep.
yeah, it's a file system kind. Actually,
Yeah,
we can save, we can retrieve
yeah,
also, but it
yeah,
is not organized. It is very difficult to search or to manage
yeah,
or to operate any things. It will be
yeah.
difficult
That's
to
correct, actually.
normally.
So that is the main disadvantage of that is the reason we gone through that, SQL part actually. Okay, like so how the SQL structure, how the SQL structure will, I mean, how the database is structured actually. So if is there any if you have, I think we already discussed this part as well. Okay, like one more time we'll discuss, and so that you can easily get some more information. Like let me consider any kind of RDBMS. Okay, RDBMS means relational database management system, right?
That was
Or
not.
else we
Yes,
can
yes.
call it as the any DBMS, SQL server, or else any platform, any database platform. Okay, it could be anything actually. Okay, it could be like any database server, or else any relational database management system, or else you can call it a platform actually. Okay, so what exactly it will do? See, in case of relational databases, okay, you can creating the databases. Okay, that it could be the database server, right? Inside of the server, we can creating the databases. This is the database. Okay, this is the database. Inside of the database server, we can store the multiple databases. Okay, we can creating the multiple databases in database SQL database servers actually. Clear, right? In case of in the database servers, you might have the multiple databases. That means simply I can say it's a collection of databases, right? Database server means collection of
Yes.
databases. Okay.
Databases.
Yeah. Now, let me take it database. So, and it's a very tough, right? To, I mean, what it could be there inside of the database.
Yeah, each database it contains the collection of objects, different objects like
We can call it
tables,
objects, or else we
schemas,
can call it,
wizards,
yes, you can call it as
entities.
the objects, or else we can call it as the entities, or we can call it as the tables. Okay. So what exactly these things?
It
What
will
exactly this?
store, it
We can
will
call it,
give the space to
we
store
can,
the data
we
in
can call
different
it
manner.
just a minute. We can call it as the tables, or else we can call it as the entities. Okay. We can call it as the objects. Okay. So basically the database means what? Database means it's a collection of entities,
Object. Okay.
or else entities. Okay. Or else tables. That we are calling it tables, right? So this all tables, it could have some kind of relationship. It could be like in a star schema relationship, or else different kind of schemas we have it. So it can follow the any kind of schema format. So hierarchical format, or else relational format, different kind of structure, different kind of relationship we might have it. So internally the databases, it might consisting of multiple tables or multiple objects, multiple entities. Though it could have some kind of relationship. Okay. So table means what exactly the table? Let me consider this is my table. Table means it should have the columns, right? Okay. You might have the,
Yes.
yeah. Can you please mute your system? There could be some kind of sound. Okay, like this is column 1, this is column 2, this is column 3, like column 4. This kind of columns, we can call it as the fields. Okay. And each column, it should have the data, right? Okay. So it might have the different things are there. So this kind of rows, we are calling it the records. Okay. Table means collection of records in the format of fields. Okay. Or collection of fields, it might consisting some kind of records that we are calling it's a table. Clear? I hope you clear, right? How exactly the
Yeah.
table structure it could be there. And we already
Yes,
seen
yes,
some
clear.
examples in our previous sessions as well. Okay. So why I'm explaining this session actually? So just we missed the flow because of multiple sessions are offset, right? Okay. That's the reason I'm just, making some kind of, overview. That's the reason this session actually. So how the SQL is processed. That means if you write any kind of query or else if you write any kind of procedure, okay, how the SQL is processed. Okay, so let me consider you written one particular SQL query. Okay, this is my query. Okay, so what exactly this query will do? So first thing is that this query will be taken by the query language processor. We have one particular software. The name of the software is query language processor. Okay, so this query language processor, it could be converting into the a database understandable code so that our database engine, the database engine, okay, it will take that kind of object code. So actually this is like, English language, right? Okay. So when this query language processor, it will take this query, it was converting into zeros and ones so that our database management engine can understand so that it can performing the operation on your database. Is it clear? So basically database or this all thing, it could be like a computers only, right? Okay. So computers can understand only zeros and ones, right? Okay. So these zeros and ones, it can understand only zeros and ones. So here what exactly will do? Query language processor we have. It will take the SQL query and it was converting into the computer understandable code so that our database engine can understand your call. Then it can performing operation on your database so that it can you might store the data in our databases as well as we can retrieve the data from the databases. Clear? Clear, right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
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 So how the Python program is executing in the same way, our SQL query also could be executed. Just a minute, something has happened. Now, so we'll take a small example. This is my table, right? Okay. Table means it always collecting some kind of fields of records, right? So that means database means which is basically it will organize the data or the database means it always working with the data or not. Okay. There we have a two kind of terms are there. One is data and second one is information. So what exactly the difference between information and information and data? So basically, data means it could be like some kind of raw material. Okay, raw material in the sense it should have some kind of some data. It doesn't have it is not maintaining some kind of specific meaning actually. Okay, and but coming to that information means it's having some kind of meaning. So like I can have data. I am coming. Okay, I am coming. So this is data. This is data. Is there any kind of meaning here? I am coming. Where you are coming? From where you are coming and where you are going? So that information is it here? No, right? But when it comes to here, I am, I am, I'm coming from. Okay, I'm coming from USA. Or else I'm traveling. Okay, so here we can say I'm traveling. Okay, so this is data. I am traveling is the data. but I'm traveling from USA to India. It could be, at 22nd of July, okay, 2023. Okay. So what exactly it is? This is exactly information. Information means it could have some kind of meaning. I am traveling from USA to India at 22nd of July. It could have some kind of meaning, right? Okay. Yes or no? I need some kind of,
Yeah, should have some.
yeah, that exactly the difference between the data and the information. Okay. So basically the databases, it could always maintaining some kind of it could always maintaining some kind of data or else information. Now, the SQL, it could be categorized into different kind of statements. So basically, SQL is having some kind of multiple commands or multiple statements. This all SQL statements, which is categorized into different different languages. One is the DDL. What is DDL? Data definition language. Second one is the DML, data manipulation language. The third one is the DQL, data query language.
Query
Fourth
language.
one is DCL, data control language.
Data control language.
Last but not least, which is the TCL, transactional control language. That means the SQL, it could have various statements are there. That all statements are categorized into some things, which are DDL, DML, DQL, DCL, and TCL. DDL means data definition language. So that means it could have some kind of comments or statements are like create, okay, and alter,
Rename.
or else drop.
Model.
If you see this kind of statements or those things we are calling it say DDL statements like creating the database or else altering the database and dropping the database or else creating the tables, altering the tables or adding some kind of columns to the tables and dropping the table. This all kind of things we are calling it say DDL commands. I think we already thoroughly got some kind of information about DDL statements, right?
Yeah.
And data manipulation language in the sense if so I just need to understand here a DDL means to change the structure of the database or table. Okay, to change or else to create, to change the structure of databases or else tables. That means adding that new column is changing the structure or not, and removing the one specific column is it changing the structure or not, or else creating the table, it means we are changing the structure of the database or not, and deleting, altering the database. These all things we are calling it say we are working close with the databases or tables for for changing structural thing. Okay, we are not working with the data. Okay, we are working with schema. So when you're working with schema, then it could be like, DDL statements help a lot. Now, second one is DML. DML in the sense to change the data in the tables. So we might see this kind of commands like insert. Have you seen this one? If you want to insert any new record into the database, then we can use the insert command. And for example, update. Update in the sense, for example, you have already table is there. I just want to update some new, I want to update the existing record. Or else if you want to delete some kind of information in a table, then we can use the delete command. Okay. So delete, okay, and update insert. These are the statements. Basically, these statements will help you but to change the data in a tables. Okay. What is the use of this one? To change the data in tables. So we are closely working with the data. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Okay. Now, let's talk about the DQL. So what exactly the DQL? Data query language. So data query language in the sense to retrieve the data. Okay, you have a database and it should have some kind of information. Okay, I want to retrieve the data from the database, but to retrieve or to query, okay, data on database, then that situation we can use the data query language. For that one, we can use the command is select command. Okay, so with the help of the selector, we can access the data from the, okay, we can access or else we can retrieve the data from the databases. Next one is DCL. DCL in the sense data control language. So for example, you have a database and within this one, you are adding some kind of new table or else you're adding some kind of data. Okay, but you know, I want to give the permissions. I don't want to, whatever the data I inserted, I want to revoke. I mean, I want to be cancel my statement. I want to cancel my information. Okay, whatever I did, I want to be remove that particular permission and as well as to set the permissions to set and else to remove the permissions. Okay, on DB. Basically, don't worry about this thing. Who are working as a SQL database admin, okay, those guys will work with these commands actually. Okay, set and revoke permissions and to any users. To any users. For example, I want to give access to you to access the data and to remove the data in this particular databases. And for that one, I have to give some kind of permission or not. If you don't have a permission, basically in real time, you might have some kind of restrictions when you're working with the databases, right? How we are giving that particular permissions. I'm the new user. I've joined into the company as a like a new employee. Okay. I'm not having the initial, I don't have any kind of permissions to connect to that particular databases. By the time the SQL admin, he can give the grant the permissions actually. Okay. And for example, I'm leaving the company and so I got some new job and I'm leaving the company. By the time I want to remove your permissions to close and to work with that particular databases. That situation, we can use the command is revoke. With help of the revoke, and we can remove the permissions to any user, and with help of the grant, we can give the permission to any user. Okay, so those things those kind of commands basically will done by the admin, not the developer, so that you don't need to worry about these two commands. Okay, and last but not least, it could be like TCL. TCL means transactional query language. For example, you have some kind of database and you're adding some new records. Okay, until you committed, it won't affect your original databases. Okay, whatever the query you were executed, that you're saying that yes, whatever the query executed and the result, it should need to be stored into the database, that you're confirming. Okay, committing your results into the databases. And for example, you executed some statements on your and you added some new records, and I don't want to store this information. I want to I want to roll back my information. I don't want to store. I don't want whatever the statement I executed on databases. That result, it won't affect my database. Okay, that means like undo options, roll back. I want to do that, roll back. And for example, so for you executed some information, I want to stop kind of I want to save some kind of statements, save points. That particular situation, we can call it as the save points. Like committing your transactions or else whatever the changes you've done so far, and you're committing, then we can use the committed. And whatever the statements you executed, I want to be roll back it. So this kind of things we are calling, let's say, TCL commands. Okay, commit, rollback, and save points. Okay, so commit, rollback. Okay, and the save points. So if you see this kind of statements, SQL statements, those are part of the TCL. Okay, transactional query language. Is there any questions? so far?
No, not good.
So far it's fine, right? Okay. So you already know that how we can creating the databases, right? And so can you tell me how we can creating the database? So we already seen these statements: create database and DB name, right? So with the help of this one, we can able to go for creating the new database. If you want to creating the new database, then we can use that above query. So here we can give the name to anyone, whatever the database name you want to give it, the specific database name you have to provide it. But this is the query, this is the command. So followed by the database, you can able to go for creating the database on our database server. Okay, clear, right? Meanwhile, and for example, meanwhile, you want to insert the data, and or else you are creating the data. If you want to creating the table, so if you want to creating the table, then we can use the create table and table name, right? And followed by the open parenthesis. And here we have to provide the column name, okay, and the column data type, and give the space. So this is column name 2 and data type. Okay. So this way we can able to go for using this kind of syntax. We are going to be creating the tables. Okay. It's clear. And now, for example, you have already the table is there. You have already some tables there. Okay. And this is the table. So I want to insert the data into the table, right? So if you want to insert the data, or if you want to insert the record into the table, we can insert it. So for that one, we can use the command is insert into, okay, insert into table name, insert into table name. So you whatever the table you're working on it, that's specific table name. And here we have to providing the column name 1 and the column name 2 and column name 3. Okay. And they followed by the values. Okay. Then after we have to providing the data 1 and the data 2 and data 3, right? So this is the way. So this data will be holding into the column 1, and this data will be holding into the column 2, and this data will be holding into the column 3. So that's the way you can able to insert the data into the table, right? Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. For example, so you have a table, it should have some kind of information. Okay, this is my column 1, this is my column 2, this is my column 3. Here we have some data, and here we have some data, and here we have the data, right? I want to retrieve the data from this particular tables, then we can use the retrieval statement is select, right? So if you want to select the all the things, then we can use the select start from, and we can providing the table name. So this is the way you can access the all the records from this particular table. Or else I want to access only this column information, this column 3 information. Then we just providing the list of this we can provide the column names like column name 1, column name 2 from, and we can providing the table name 1. Then we can able to access the all the records of column 1 and column 3, column 1 and column 3 information we can access. That's the way you can we can able to work with, and we can use the data from the tables. Okay, clear? Any questions so far?
No, we're okay.
Okay, so for these things we are done in our previous sessions, right? Okay, now we'll talk about the SQL data types. What are the data types we have in SQL? Cited SQL data types. So SQL data type means you can go ahead with any data, any programming language, it could have some kind of data types. So basically there are 4 type of data types out there. First, we'll talk about the numerical data types. So basically the table, it could store the numerical type of data, right? Okay. As well as it could store the character type of data also. Okay. Or else the data, it could be like, time format or date and time date and the time. Okay. Or else some kind of misleading or misleading data types, like, a mixture data type, like unstructured data. Okay. Like when it comes to the numerical type, there it could have the different type of data types are there. It could be like, inter and or else a small inter. Okay. Small inter and decimal. So it could have decimal type. Okay. Or else it could have money, or else float, 80 float. So when you're holding the type, when you're holding the data, or else money also. Money is also one kind of data type. Okay. See, when you're holding this type of this all type, it could be like, comes under the numerical type, right? For example, I want to store the city names, or else student names, or else employee names, or else product names, okay, or else service names. So the time we can use the character type, right? There it could have the different kind of character types are there. So it could be like, char, okay, varchar, text, text. So this way you can hold the, okay, text type of data or character type of data. And coming to the date time. So data time is one type of data type, or which is part of the time and date and time data types. And or else date is specifically date is also one data type, and time is also one data type, and a small data time, small date time. Okay. And which in mixed data type, in the sense it could be like, images, okay, like videos. So when you're holding the data in such a way, then that kind of data type we are calling it, say, MSAC. Okay. See, that's what, guys. So there it could be like, 4 type of data we can hold in a databases. Okay. Clear? Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. What about n varchar?
Yeah, it's a part of the VARCHAR only. N VARCHAR or VARCHAR, it's the same thing. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm telling that, VARCHAR, we can use the VARCHAR or we can use N VARCHAR. It's they are creating some variations. Like you can go and find the difference. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? Let's see. We'll continue the session by tomorrow. Okay. Let's see some kind of SQL clauses, like where clause, like top, and update, and delete, and alter. And I think most of the things we already seen it. And once this all things was done, let's do a small example so we can easily understand. Okay. Yep. Okay, guys. Bye. Take care. See you.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.